in the world, and welcome. Welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And we are welcoming Kathryn LaBarbera back because she gave us a wonderful, wonderful insight on our first podcast episode about our relationship with money. And right now, we're here to talk about creating the right money mindset. This is something that is near and dear to everyone's heart. So, welcome, Kathryn.
Thank you so much for having me back. I really enjoyed the first time. I can't wait for this next one.
It's wonderful because this is a topic that is on everybody's mind, whether we are doing well making money, whether we're not doing well making money. And I asked you back specifically because when we talked about the relationship with money, we talked about how we view it, what our relationship is with it, how it flows to us, how it flows from us, how to be able to account for it, if I can remember all of the things correctly. And, this is wonderful. But what happened is that I got inquiries. I got inquiries that basically said, okay, if I am in right relationship with money, how do I get over that hump? How do I actually make that change in my life to allow money to flow to me and from me with grace and ease in balance versus flowing from me out of balance and not having enough flow in, and then therefore jumping into that kind of scarcity mindset. So I guess I'll start off with just letting you introduce however you want to come into that understanding of the right money mindset.
So I think I want to go back to our first time together was when we talked about money is energy.
Right.
And so if money is energy, there is both receiving and giving of energy, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So the way I always look at money is that money is always an exchange. So if we were to hold on to money and keep money by ourselves, like we were to, it's almost like grabbing energy and trying to hold it. There's no such thing as holding. It's just like holding water. If we try to go like this and hold water, it's not going to be held. So water is meant to flow, energy is meant to flow, and money is meant to flow. So when we receive money in our heart. It digests, it almost like goes down through our body and out our belly button, and then it
Okay.
goes to the other person. So if we think about energy, I bring it into my heart, go down my belly button, I send it to you, you're going to receive it to your heart, you're going to go down to your belly button, and it's going to come back to me, to my heart. That's now imagine the shape of that.
Oh yeah. That is eight. That is like a infinity sign.
Yes.
But I want
Yes.
to ask you a question that's fundamental, and it might sound stupid, but how do you know that you're receiving it into your heart? Because there are others who will probably
Mhm.
say, well, I think I'm receiving it into my heart, but how do I actually know I'm receiving it in the right place, in the right way?
Okay, so receiving money into your heart, I think it's a practice. So I want to
Okay.
kind of go back to how do we get the right mindset? Transformation always starts in language,
Mm,
always. So it starts with how you're talking about money, how you talk about it. And one of the things that we've been told, a lot of people have been told, is that's not something you talk about. You don't talk
it's
about
true.
money. You don't share money. You don't talk about money. It's a taboo subject. So a lot of that is that energy is being held in the throat because we want to talk about it, but we don't are not allowed to. So the first thing is you start talking about money openly, hopefully with people that you trust, right?
Yeah.
But then you start listening to what you are saying. So how you're expressing about it. Okay. So when we know that we're receiving the energy or receiving money, it's kind of like, how does it feel? So there's what I find when I'm working with people is usually we have the people that love to receive money and the people that love to give money, but they don't usually are in one person. So there's the
Okay.
givers who, oh, this person's in trouble, let me give them money. Oh, this, this person needs this, let me give them money. But they resist the receiving. Then there's the people that like to receive and don't like to give the money. I want to receive it because I need to fulfill something within myself and the energy feels good coming in, but I don't want to give it out. So energy is going to feel stuck somewhere. So
Right.
how do you know if you're receiving money? Is you start looking at the feeling of it when you talk about it. So if you and I had a
Mm.
conversation, and I ask people this all the time, like, oh my God, you just bought a house. How much did you pay for it? And I can see people physically get like, well, that's none of your
Yeah, shrink.
business.
Like, how dare you ask me how much did I pay for it?
Right. And
Yeah.
that goes to we don't speak about money. But if you were to say, oh my God, I paid $500,000 or 500,000, whatever currency you're in, I paid that, and you feel shame or guilt or bad or anything like that, then you know that there's some part of the energy flow that's not working. If you
So
say,
why is it that, yeah, why is it that we don't want to talk about money? And I'm really thinking about that. And yeah, people are like that, very, very guarded, very, very apprehensive, and yeah, now that I think about it.
okay, so one, it's what we're told. Two is because we're also told that people will take advantage of you. So if you have money, people are going
Yes,
to do everything to get your money. When if that's not true, now we're using a false pretense to restrict ourselves and we're restricting the energy. So you just got to start somewhere small. That's what I say is start with the language and start talking about it. So if you say, or if you have if you have any barriers. So sometimes people are like, yeah, it's no problem. $20, I don't care about. But if you get to $100, I gotta, it's like, it feels different. So there's going to be and for some people it's $10,000 is no problem, but $20,000 is too much. There's going to be a point where it changes from an okay amount to a not okay amount, and that's going to be different. And it doesn't matter because it's energy, right? So it doesn't matter what number we put on it, but there's going to be a part where it switches. And that's the part where you kind of go into, you kind they say when you're out of control in a car and you're spinning, you need to turn into the curve, like
yes,
into the way you're spinning to stop the spin.
which is
So when
counterintuitive.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. But this is the same thing and that's really stopping the energy of the car. The energy is going one way and we want to stop it. So we go opposite. So where we have those stuck points is where you start feeling into.
Okay, okay. So here we are. We have had scarcity mindset. I'm going to lay it flat out. And I need to get over this scarcity mindset and I need to shift my relationship with money. And so I've seen your first podcast. I want you to know I've been neatly putting in my money in my wallet each and every time. I've been
Yay.
touching the money myself and handing it to the cab driver when I need to go to a cab or paying for things with cash. And, I actually see the flow, and you're right. I have to say, hands down, you're right. When you're paying with a card, there's no regard. But when you're paying with cash, you're acknowledging it, you're seeing how much you're spending, you're watching it flow out, you're watching it come back to you as you attain that
Mm-hmm.
money. I mean, there is a real big difference. So, okay, I've laid the foundation of a great relationship with money. I acknowledge it. I make sure it's not bent. And it's like, oh, you don't want to be just shoved into my wallet, you know. So we're courting. I'm courting money. Okay. Now I want to go on to the next stage. There are those who would say to you, okay, I love the idea of I take out what I need for the week, I come back, and this is what I believe I spend, you know, and then I find that I don't have enough. And then I find I don't have enough, you know. And my thought was, okay, I could slow down my spending and make sure that I'm spending on what I absolutely need. Or are there things that I can put off that it doesn't have to account for this week? It's not that I can't account for it, but it's just that I don't have to account for it this week. But what are the other things that I should be watching out for to shift that mindset?
So what you're talking about is paying money out, right? That's the out of the belly button to another person. Okay.
Yes.
So that's you're getting that energy flowing, right? So that's good because okay, great. I'm conscious of the money that's going out. There's that visceral feel of it because you're using cash. So you're more
Right.
connected to it. And now you realize that you're starting to make decisions. Is this something I really need? Is it something that I want? Like what is the thing that I'm purchasing? Right. So you're now starting to make decisions rather than on a subconscious, it doesn't really matter. I'm using a card, I'm not connected to it. You're now starting to get connected to this. That's great. That is step number one. Now that's the out of the belly button. Now let's talk about the receiving into the heart. So when you receive money, what kind of feelings do you have? And that's where we check into there. So there's a lot, and I'm going to say this that I find this more with women. Receiving money is harder for women
Mm-hmm.
because there's a worthiness conversation that goes like that's an underlying issue that could be there.
Okay.
But you want to check in with when you get money. Now, what are the different ways that we can get money? How do we receive
We
money?
we receive money from our jobs, and so
Mm-hmm.
therefore we don't necessarily acknowledge the gratefulness because we feel like, well, hey, I worked for this, I deserve it, I'm entitled to it, so I don't see the gratitude that I would typically have for it when somebody pays me or gifts me with money, right? So somebody could pay me because they owe me. Somebody could pay me because they're gifting me. I could receive money out of death. I could receive money out of a surprise that somebody thought of me and hadn't thought about me in forever and decides they want my service. You know, I think that covers a good decent amount of ways to receive money.
It does. So we'll talk about those, and then we're going to talk about the surprise ones that you didn't mention.
Okay.
So one is whenever you receive money, remember money is energy. Money is not attached to the job. Money is not attached to the gift. Money is not attached to a person. Money is just energy. So whenever you receive money, it's like you just take a moment and have that gratefulness and you have that. I always do a happy dance. Okay. So my happy dance says, I'm receiving money. Doesn't matter how it comes to me, but I do a little happy dance. So that is, and I think I talked about this last time, that's signaling to the universe, I am willing to receive money and I'm willing to receive that energy in to me in a grateful, graceful manner.
Okay.
So all those things. So whenever you receive money, so you get money from your job, you get money as a gift, you get money from someone asking for your services. You get money, you could get money from child support or something that someone is obligated to give you. But every time you receive money, you're grateful that that money is coming to you.
Okay.
Now that signals to the universe, we're good with money, you can bring us more. Now there's a couple of surprise ways you can get money. Have you ever found a coin on the street?
Oh, yes.
Do
Yes.
you walk over it or do you
No,
pick it up?
I pick it up.
Okay. And then when you pick it up, what do you like? Imagine picking up a coin. What goes through your head or your feelings about it?
Well, my mom used to have this cute little saying, see a penny, pick it up, and all the day you'll have good luck. And I just say, thank you. So I am actually in the habit of saying, thank you for the gift because it was a gift of receiving money that was unexpected. But that's because ever since I was a child, we didn't throw away pennies. We weren't one of those people, my mom always said, it's good luck. So,
And do you know that there's a second part to that saying?
no.
Find a penny, pick it up, and all the day you'll have good luck. Give it to a friend, and your luck will never end.
Ah, I didn't know that. I did not
So
know.
it, in that little saying that we learned as kids, is that's the receiving and the giving.
Okay.
Okay. So just like that, but it's like when you find coins on the ground, you bend down to pick them up and you do a happy dance. Now the happy dance, you may look silly. Okay. Cause my, I go like this, but I kind of shake my little tushy and I go up and down. Um, and you might look silly to others, but that joyful, because that dance makes me happy, that dance makes me
Yeah.
feel silly, physical it's a physical gratitude. It's not just a mental, it's a physical.
Hmm.
It brings up different hormones in your body. That is the joyful, the joy hormones and whatever. And so what you do is you have this little thank you, thank you so much. Thank you for the gift. I love that part. But you do the little dance with it too. So now, as you start looking for coins, see, a lot of people walk around oblivious to the money on the ground. They walk
Yes,
right
they
over
do.
it.
They walk right over it. Yes, they
And
do.
so, what are you telling the universe,
That you don't need it. You'd walk right over it.
right? So when you start picking these pennies up, you'll start noticing, and I do this when I have classes, you'll start noticing, people will start noticing, oh, it's not just pennies anymore. I found a dime, or I found quarters, or people will find paper currency. Or you know that feeling when you put on some clothes and you reach into the pocket and there's money there, like you forgot that money was there, and it's like
Oh
how
my
happy you
God,
are.
yay! An extra
Yeah.
$10.
So you start to notice it and you start to be grateful for it and you start to add it up. So let's say that you're going to do every week, you're going to see how much money comes to you. You start adding it
Okay.
up. When you start tracking it, you'll noticing that it starts to increase because you're doing the happy dance every time. You're very grateful. You're very conscious of money around you and you're happy every time. Now, here's another way you receive money. You receive money it, even if you don't actually physically get money. If a friend takes you out to dinner or someone
Yeah.
treats you to a going out to a show or something, they say, oh, I have this. Now a lot of times I see a lot of people fighting, oh no no no, let me pay, oh no no no, and the no 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 is saying, no no, I don't want gifts of money, or I don't want valuable gifts, rather than saying, oh
Ah.
my god, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
So let's go back to a minute, because remember, money is both a giving and receiving energy, right?
Right.
Have you ever wanted to pay for someone to do something and they say no, no, no?
Yes.
How
Yes.
does
Yes.
that make
Yes.
you feel when you want to give them something?
What? My money's not good enough to give you? You can't
Right.
receive from me. Well, what's the problem?
You feel bad. So what happened is someone that's giving out of their belly button to you, that energy, you don't receive it and they feel bad about it. So
Yeah.
if someone says, I really want to pay, you say, oh my God, thank you so much. I am so happy right now. Like this brings me so much joy. Imagine that, as opposed to when they say, no, 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 I can't accept that. There's a big difference in the energetic level.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios. One scenario is that I'm expecting money, I'm in a hard way, I finally get the money, and the money is flowing in, and it's not enough. And I don't show the gratitude towards it. Like I'm happy, but it's like, oh, and I don't want it to flow out because I feel like finally just getting a hold to it. And this is a lot of people. I'm finally getting a hold to it. I'm finally getting money to flow to me. And because I have so many things to pay for, I feel like it's flowing out as fast as it's flowing in, and I want to hold on to it. And I'm just not happy.
Then are you truly happy when you receive it?
No.
Right. The other thing is because it's energy, we have to also be happy when we give it.
Mm,
So if I was to give you money and I'm like, yeah, I'll pay for you, I'll pay for dinner tonight. but I don't have that joy giving
Joy.
it to you. How does
Yeah.
that make you feel when you receive it?
I don't really want to receive it from you. You know, I don't want to receive it at all.
Mm-hmm. Because you feel bad because I put bad feelings attached to it. So
Hmm.
one is we're going to receive money in a happy way and we're going to give money in a happy way.
Right.
So as we start to do this, and again, I understand money can be very stressful if you feel like you don't have enough. Money can make people feel bad, especially if there's bad energy receiving it, giving it, or any part of the flow of it. But once we start getting into joy, once we start getting into happiness, you start seeing that the money flows in and out with joy. The universe starts saying, aha, that person can handle more money.
Okay.
Let's get a little bit deeper too, because this is our mindset. And the
Right.
minds, like what comes first, the money or the mindset? That's the big question.
And I would think that the mindset comes first. And the reason I say that is because the mindset sets the tone and the foundation of the flow. And
Mm-hmm.
if I am always hyper and in anxiousness and everything, then my flow staggers. And then when I'm just like, you know what? I'm at peace with this. I'm okay. Even if I lose something or something is stolen, it's like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it because it's going to flow back into me. And I can't have that heaviness and that hardness of like, oh my gosh, this was stolen from me. I'm going to get back. I'm so angry. I'm going to get back, etc., etc., etc. Because I realize that that staggers out into the world, and then that makes a buffer as to the flow back into me. And then if that's what I ripple out, I don't know how long it'll take for me to get that flow back. So I don't want to ripple that out. So I tend to I always think this way: when I give somebody money, it's a gift. Even if they're borrowing money from me, it's a gift. Because then that sets my mindset for if it doesn't come back, I'm not going to flip. I don't give out money that I can't afford to unless I know that it can be a gift. Because if it doesn't flow back, I'm not going to have a fit. Um, but I see it all the time, and I want to have compassion for this because it's not easy to shift your mindset when you've been schemed on, or you've been taken, or you feel
Mm-hmm.
taken. You know, what are your thoughts?
Well, think about relationships.
Yeah.
Okay, so in relationship, if you're in a relationship and the other person cheats on you, and then you go into the next relationship, what are you cautious of?
How I'm going to get cheated on again, just in
Right.
case.
And
Hmm.
and that experience taints kind of how you see the world. Now, this person that you're in this new relationship may never have cheated before, but that's brought into the space and there's a potential that that could happen, but you're looking for it, and what you're looking for is what you'll find.
Okay.
So, if I am like one of the things is that there was a point in my life when I was very financially stressed. I was very young
Okay.
and I bought a house
Hmm.
and I could barely make the house payments. I had to have roommates that paid me rent. I was living like people would say, "Do you want to go out?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to stay home," because I didn't have any money to. I gave myself a weekly allowance, and that had to be all my food, my gas, everything. And there was a point where property tax was due sooner than I thought, and I didn't have the money, and I had to make a decision: is it property tax or is it the house payment? Like, what's worse not to pay? That was, and I was
Right.
obsessing about it every minute of every day. It was constantly in me, and then like it was always around, and I was so negative about everything.
Mm.
But I went to my mom and I was telling her, and my thing was, I'm not going to borrow money. I got myself into this. I'm going to figure my way out of it. And I went to my mom and I said, I'm really stressed. She does not remember saying this, but she said, turn it over to God. Now, if you don't believe in God, turn over to the universe, turn over to your higher self, turn it over to where it's no longer your problem. And I was so at the point where I said, I surrender. I don't want this anymore, that I just said, I'm done. Now, I've tried to do that in other times of my life and I wasn't really done. So there's a part of me that was still holding on to it. But in that point, I was just done and I turned it over. And within 2 days, I got a bonus at work. The bonus covered my property tax payment with $40 left over. I had
Nice.
never gotten a bonus before. I did not get another bonus at work for another more than 10 years, but that covered it. I now knew the game that I had to play and the money I had to save, and so it never caught me off guard again. And I leveled up to a new amount of money that was flowing to me. So the thing is that if I'm trying to control it, I'm trying to make it happen, I'm stressed about it all the time. It's not an environment that money wants to go to.
Right.
So
Right.
I've got to be in control of me, and I've just got to say, okay,
So
I've got to shift.
on a deeper level, I love what you just said. I just want you to know I love what you said. And so I'm sitting here going, what you're basically saying is that your energy being within the temple of your body has to be in its light and its love, and it amplifies that. And then when it amplifies that, that which is all around you can respond in kind. And that's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Because everything is energy, everything has energy, everything is a makeup of energy, whether it's an inanimate object or not. And we think in typically our response to inanimate objects, like a physical piece of paper that we're calling a dollar bill, or whatever it is
Right.
that, oh well, this is an inanimate object and it doesn't have any energy that has to be responded to. So I will treat it in kind, what my perception is.
Right.
And what you're saying is that that's absolutely the opposite of what you should be
And it's funny, you just said something, it came to me right now. That dollar, that dollar bill is not energy itself. It is a representation of the energy, right? Because I could have a check. I could have a transfer of funds, an electronic transfer. That's still energy going in and out. The reason why I always put it back to hard currency when you're trying to make this shift is because there's that tactile touch part of you that can connect with it. So it is a representation, but if you just look at all of it like energy, it's a representation of energy, and then it can
doing.
flow better.
I actually, my mathematical mind goes, okay, money is made out of paper, paper are made out of trees, trees have energy, so therefore that money is energy. And so, everything, whether it's man-made or not, is either imbued with the energy of the person who made it, or has a representation of the man-made particles or chemical reactions that created it, or the physical materials that were carved and etc. in nature to create it. So I was thinking, yes, everything
Yeah.
that context. But I get it.
Yes.
I get it.
Yeah. So let's go back to the very first question is how do
Yeah.
we get the mindset? So we talked all about the energy and the representation and this. Let's go back to language.
Okay.
And when you talk about money, not only what words do you say, but what is the energy behind the words that you say?
Ah. Okay.
So if I say, yeah, I love money, but I'm faking it, okay? The good part is I've changed my language first, but now I got to get into an alignment with the energy behind the words. So if I say, rich people are jerks, okay, well, what is that telling the universe?
That
I don't
they're
want to be
rich.
rich because I'm not a
I
mean
want
person, right? Yeah. So if you say, um, if you just change your language, even if you go from negative to neutral, that's a step in the right direction. But we want to get to the point of, all people are good, having money, having money is a positive thing. We start changing the words first, and then we start getting our energy into alignment with what we're saying.
okay.
So we look at our language first, change the language, then start aligning your energy behind that to where you believe it. So it's one thing to say something positive, it's another thing to have the energy behind it that aligns with it.
And so what we intuit is what manifests. Bottom line. And there's no faking it. Your
Right.
heart really truly uh, uh, your heart really truly has to be behind what you're saying. Otherwise, the only person that you're fooling is yourself, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get to practical because I love talking like this, but then people walk away and they're like, well, how do I do that?
Right.
So
Right.
one is I want you to get a money buddy. Okay.
Ah,
Um,
money buddy. Okay.
yeah, money buddy, where the two of you sit down and you start talking about money and you start seeing where you're in alignment and not alignment, but you start listening to each other's words, right? So if you and I were money buddies and I said, yeah, I got money the other day, I found a quarter on the ground and it was great. And then my friend took me out to dinner and I was just kind of like, it was really expensive and I felt really bad. And your money buddy can say, hold on, reframe that.
Okay.
So they can catch me on my words first, right?
Right. Okay.
So, and I do the same for my money buddy. So my money buddy's catching my words, I'm catching their words.
Okay.
But we start talking about money and we can talk in small amounts first. Okay. So $5, $10, whatever euro, whatever your currency is. I'm in America. That's why I'm talking dollars.
Yeah.
So you start talking about in small currencies, then you start increasing it. So for some people, they have, remember I said there's that point where money starts to change. So like they'll to somebody $100 could be a lot, to the next person 10,000 could be a lot, to the next person it's 100,000 or 200,000. There's going to be a point where it starts feeling a little bit like, you start increasing how much you're talking about. And the money buddies don't have to be in alignment with one another. So you could have a money
Okay.
buddy where theirs is a 100 and yours is 10,000 as your kind of E point. Um, that's okay. The person who's at $100 starts talking about $200. And the person that's at
Right.
10,000 starts talking about 15,000. And we start just increasing what we're talking about till we get comfortable talking about larger dollar
Sums of
amounts.
money. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
The next thing is you start expressing your feelings behind it. I feel
Wow.
nervous, or I feel like, at least we don't want to make ourselves wrong in this process, right? So we start saying,
Right.
it makes me nervous when I start talking about $15,000. I feel
Mm-hmm.
nervous. So there's a process that I learned is we talk about where do we feel it physically in our body. So when I feel nervous, I feel nervous. Let's say I feel when I talk about, I feel nervous right in my throat. So what are the physical sensations? What are the emotions that I'm feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And what are my thoughts? So we go through all three. So
This is so important. This is so
yes.
important. And I'm gonna call all of the healers out there who go, well, I'm not worthy to charge that amount, or I feel funny and it doesn't feel right when I charge, or you know, I am
Mm-hmm.
I all of those emotions, and they get an actual visceral reaction. And you're right. The throat, the heart, in the gut. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we start, and that person has a hard time receiving.
Yes.
So
Yes,
it's
they do.
it's the receiving part. And remember, I said the receiving part, there's an underlying worthiness in there. I'm not
Yeah.
worthy of getting money for my service. Services. So let's say that they're a healer and they do Reiki.
Okay.
Not everyone in the world can do Reiki. That is a gift that you were given. Okay. So if you do Reiki and someone else does financial planning, right? So one is more of a heart-based service. The other one is more of a mental, like, you know, one's right brain, one's left brain. Let's talk about it that way.
Yes. Okay.
Well, how do you exchange those services? The great
One is a
equalizer
no-brainer,
is
right?
money. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you exchange by money. So the Reiki person helps the financial person by doing Reiki on them, and they physically can feel better, spiritually can feel better. So you charge that services. And then the financial person doesn't know how to do Reiki. So the financial person pays the Reiki person. The Reiki person pays the financial person for their services, and it is an exchange.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like the Reiki person does not. And the funny thing is, if you talk to the Reiki person or the energy healer, they do not think that the financial person, they know the financial person is going to charge for their services,
Right. They don't even think twice about it. They
right?
just automatically expect and assume.
Right. So if we open that up and start talking about it, I don't feel good about charging clients. Okay. What are the physical sensations? What are your thoughts? And what are your emotions? And you start expressing those. You can start there, those things can get all kind of like twisted up together, and you can start to unravel them so they can release.
So how do you unpack that for the person, giving that person, because this is a shift. I know how I would do it. The bottom line is that we have to come to the decision points that we have in our life, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of these decision points are patterns. And we have to take
Mhm.
pause at our decision point, because if we're always going right, every time we come to the fork in a road, I go right, that's the pattern. And the bottom line is I have to catch myself at the fork in the road, and instead of automatically going right, because that's what I've always done, I have to go left to get a different outcome. So that's how I would reconcile it in my mind. Are there other ways?
One is have fun. So this is everyone, when they
Okay.
talk about money, they tend to go negative. So if you start making things fun or start making things light, transformation doesn't have to be hard. It can actually be very easy and can be done very quickly. It's how much do we want to resist the change that makes it hard, or makes the longevity, draws the time out. So one is have a lot of grace for yourself. Just it's like, oh, look at I went right again. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
The other thing with words is I learned the cancel, cancel, cancel technique. So if I
Okay.
say
Cancel
something
that.
like, yeah, rich people are mean. Ooh, cancel, cancel, cancel. And then I restate it right then. Because what that's doing is we have neural pathways that go in our brain, left to right. And we
Mm-hmm.
have a neural pathway that says rich people are mean. Like, and we keep going. And the more we go down that path, the deeper that groove gets. That's how I think about it. So if I'm in
Okay.
that groove and I say, wait, wait, cancel, 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 I go back and I make a new pathway and I say, rich people are fun. Now, I may not believe it, but I'm training my brain to start going down a different pathway. Rich people are healthy. Rich people are nice. Rich people are, phenomenal, phenomenal givers. Whatever it is that I'm starting to put a positive spin on it, I'm trying to retrain myself. So if I say something
Okay.
that I don't like, cancel, 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 I restate it and I move on. If we take that time and we're like, oh my God, you did it again. You're so stupid, blah, blah, blah. We are negative self talking. and we're
Yep.
in that same negative pattern and we're not breaking it. So I like, for me personally, my whole family likes playing games. I try to make a game of it. Why? Games are fun, games are lighthearted, games bring joy, great games make me happy. So if I make a game like how many negative speech things, like things that I say, statements, do I cancel in a day? And I start counting. Oh my God, that's number 7. And like I'll say, okay, yesterday I had 5, today I had 7. Wow, I did more today because I'm starting to
Yeah.
recognize my language first. So that's the first thing you start. Make it fun, make it lighthearted. No negative um, doubting or
Speak.
self-talk.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
A buddy, a buddy also helps you too because a buddy is your support system.
yeah.
And
Okay.
so the buddy can help catch you and you can talk about it. Hey, like if you and your buddy met once a week, make it something fun. Maybe you're going for a hike together or you're sitting down and having coffee, or if they're another part of the world, you're doing a Zoom. You know, people do all these Zoom things sometimes and they'll have a drink, right? So they'll have like a virtual happy hour. But you talk to your buddy and you say, "Hey, I had a good week in this way." It's like having a coach. And whenever I have a coach, I'm a total tattletale on myself. So I'll tell them exactly where I failed in the week, like where I was like, yeah, I was noticing I was doing self-talk. I wasn't catching myself. So I started catching myself. So I have the celebration, but I also do the admission of where I want to improve, just so that I'm not making myself wrong. I'm just saying, okay, this is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the idea of that too, because sometimes we don't see ourselves in our actuality. So if we are a glass is half empty kind of person and you have an accountability partner or that buddy, then that buddy can mirror back, did you hear what you just said? Did you realize that the last 5 minutes you've been talking so negative? And we don't realize it. We don't catch ourselves because it's so much of a part of us. So I really like the idea of having that buddy. That's very, very good. Thank you.
And I want you to notice too when they talk positive. Do you realize in the last 5 minutes you've been talking nothing but positive? Or if there's been a light in your voice that I didn't hear before, like recognizing the good, because if we're always trying to fix the bad and never acknowledging the good, like
Yeah.
you got to have both the carrot and the stick.
Yes.
Can I give you a new word for your language? So
Okay.
there's a buddy and they're holding you accountable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Call it an accountability buddy.
Okay. Accountability buddy.
Yes, that's my buddy who holds me accountable.
Accountability buddy. I like
Yeah.
that.
The other thing, if you're gonna, you can call them a money buddy because again, I want to do, accountable. It says I'm going to do something and then they hold you accountable for it. But a money buddy is like we have safety. We can talk anything we want about money,
Yeah.
and to really bring that forward, the money forward, that it's okay to talk. And once you and your money buddy get into a place where you're comfortable, start talking to other people about money and watch their reactions, because there's a lot of people that'll start, like it's almost like they freeze, like we're not supposed to talk about this. You start opening up all of the pent up energy around money, and just
Okay.
notice how many people in your life are like that.
Okay. I'm going to throw one more at you. I know we're coming up
Okay.
on an hour soon, but I can't help it. I have to throw
Okay.
this one at you. Fear of success. It's working. The money's flowing in. I'm not used to having this kind of flow. I'm not used to receiving. And then we mess it up because it started coming and it started working. And we're so used to being in that mindset of not having enough
Mhm.
that we actually sabotage ourselves. How do you catch yourself, or how do you catch that before it happens?
Wow. That is a very big question that could have a lot of answers, a lot of different answers.
Okay.
So, one is you want to imagine what it is like. So every time I start working with someone around money, I ask the first question I ask is how much money is your bank account? Like right now, how much money is in your bank account? That's where they're comfortable. So we've got to start getting comfortable with more money because it's like having a cup. So I have a glass right here that I've been drinking water out of. And if this is my cup, no matter how, and the liquid in it is money, no matter how much money is coming in, how much can I hold?
What that glass can hold.
And if more money comes in and it gets to the top, where does the money go?
It overflows.
It overflows and spills out, and I can only keep this amount of money. Right. So this is what happens when people say, okay, great. All of a sudden I get money and money's coming in, and then the tires go in my car. Okay, I gotta buy more tires. Okay, money coming in. And then I have a payment that I have to make that I didn't realize I had to make, and it's way more than I thought. So it's like that, those surprises. All that is the money overflowing out of your cup. How can I hold more money?
Bigger container.
Bigger container. So I've got to work on myself that I can receive more money. Now, if I have a bigger container than that cup, let's say I have a bucket and the same amount of money is flowing in, there's just more space for more money, but I can actually hold more. So as more money comes in, I can, my container's bigger. So what I say is we figure out what size container you have and we start working or imagining just a bigger container.
Oh,
And once we
okay.
get to that container and that starts getting towards the top, we start working on a bigger container. So my evolution with this is when I was younger, my first container, we're young, it was probably my two hands, like whatever I could hold in my hands. Then I went to a cup, then I went to a bowl, then I went to, and I just keep creating bigger and bigger things. So instead of working on hundreds of dollars, it was thousands of dollars, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. Then it's like, okay, I'm ready for millions. I want to do, and this is true for business people too. The container or the money that you're receiving in for your business is also a container. So I want to
Yes.
start a nonprofit and I want this nonprofit to be able to accept billions. So I'm working now on expanding myself to be able to receive billions.
Yes.
It's a foreign concept to me, but even it doesn't matter where you are, we're always working on how do we other container. The other thing I'd say is don't compare yourself to others. Just because that's what I'm working on doesn't mean that's what you're working on. So if you're working on going from your hands to your cup, you just start
That's fine.
imagining that, and that's where you are. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just where you are, and you start working on it, and you can move through those pretty quickly.
Okay. Excellent, excellent answer to a question that I knew was just going to be a little bit tough. So I absolutely love this, Kathryn. What would you give as like the last word of advice on this topic?
Make money fun.
Okay.
If there's
Okay.
joy, if there's
Like,
yeah, if there's joy about money, money is going to be attracted to you. And just notice where if it gets stuck, that's where you go and you work on it. And once the energy is flowing, you're going to find money. It's so funny that people that I work with, all of a sudden they'll be like, wow, I can do this and I can do this now. I can buy a house. I can go on trips. I can do this because the money just, we unplug where it's stuck. And so just
oh,
if you have fun and make it lighthearted, money wants it. Does money want to go someplace where someone's negative? Like, do you want to hang around negative people?
no, I
You want to
don't.
be around
I
fun
don't.
people. So does money. If
Fun
money was a person,
people. Yeah. 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 I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for coming back. And I want to reserve the right to ask you back again because I want
of
to go
course.
from here, from that mindset, to talking about investments and the fact that our money is going down a digital currency realm. And I have my take on that as a mathematics major and how I love working with numbers. But a lot of people have trepidation and fear about the digitizing of the money. So I want to come back and have this conversation again regarding investments and how money is itself is changing, and how we can prepare ourselves for embracing that change, and how we step out of our own fears, because many people are not comfortable and they're not aware of how to work within digitized money and regular investments. I mean, some people will tell you stories, even though they've worked in corporate for years and years and years. The first time they ever worked in corporate, they might have been their first family member to work in corporate. And so when they were told, here are stock options, here are this, here are that, and they're like, I don't know what this is. I've never dealt with this before. A financial portfolio? Well, what do you mean? I just have a bill, I pay it, and that's it. And then things are introduced to me when I acquire things. So if I acquire a house, then I learn what a mortgage is. But like flipping houses or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, foreign. So I want to have that conversation. If we could reserve the right to ask you back.
Absolutely. Money is one of my favorite topics. I love talking about it because I love helping people get out of their own way with this. So anytime or any topic you want to talk about, I'm your girl.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is Kathryn LaBarbera. I love you. I love having you here. What an honor. And just thank you so much for sharing your heart and sharing your wisdom. And this is just so, so, so important to so many people. So, again, your contribution to just everyone in having this conversation is so, so, so important and meaningful. Thank you.
And thank you for having me on and thank you for the work you do because getting these kinds of topics out there is very important for moving forward.
Thank you so much. So I know that you should be sharing this episode to our audience, and I know you should be liking this episode too. So please share, please like, and we are going to bring you more. So subscribe, subscribe, subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Infinite Way. And thank you again, Kathryn LaBarbera. And this is Dr. Enolia saying thank you for coming and listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.